Hi, Lib Dem Reg here, signing on to bring you up to date with all my latest exploits as a borough councillor. So, I have completed my ICT training and I'd love to tell you all about it, but apparently that might actually leave me open to a security breach. So, I can't tell you about that. I can't tell you about the different layers of security, the 2 hour training session we went through to make sure that we understood how the whole ICT system worked, the ability to classify different documents at different levels. I'd love to tell you all about it, but in doing so, I might actually make the system vulnerable, so can't really do that. Not good. So I thought, well, I can tell you about something else. So one of the other training courses I attended was something called conduct and monitoring. This is where we look at the conduct of our borough councillors and decide if they are being good, upstanding members of the community, which they should be. But apparently that's not always the case. So it would seem that Saturday night, for our older viewers, is no longer all right for fighting. No fighting on a Saturday night. We have to be good. Now, the great thing about this is that it reminds councillors like myself how we should be seen because we are now representatives of the public. Therefore, we should be upstanding members of the public. And that is the way we work. The next thing we took us through was something called conflict of interests, where we spent a good hour discussing how, as a councillor, you shouldn't be conflicted when you carry out your duties. That means if you even think there's a problem, you might be conflicted in some way, then you either have to declare that or remove yourself from the committee. Now, an example of this would be, say I'm a member of the rugby club. I've been a member of the rugby club for 10 years. Go there every Friday, Saturday, play rugby. I'm a real upstanding supporter of the club. I don't do anything else in the club. The club decides it wants to extend its premises or it wants to add new ground. So it applies to the planning committee. I'm on the planning committee. Now, in that case, there's not a conflict of interest. I might be a member, but I can deal with the situation with a fairly neutral view and attitude. If I want to be super sure, then I may declare the fact that I'm a member of the club and suggest that maybe I don't attend. That's fine. Now, let's say I'm the club treasurer or the secretary. Then it's very different. I have a vested interest in that club doing well. If they want to extend or improve and they then come across my committee, I am conflicted because I can't deal with their application in a neutral way. And I definitely have to hold my hands up and say, I have a conflict of interests. I need to leave the room. Now, this sounds pretty straightforward and it sounds maybe a little bit draconian. Can we not be trusted? But then when I sat down and thought about it, I realised that this is one of the principal safeguards of democracy. This stops democracy being corrupted. And what it really does is stop something called capturing governments, where a government is what we might call captured by the people who control it. So it ends up serving those in power and not the people. So the people who seize power have the government in their pockets, to use a phrase. These could be corrupt people who are doing it for the money, criminals, as in mafia gangs, or even people who just want power for the sake of power. An example of that might be somewhere like Venezuela, where it appears now that the government only serves the people in power and does not think about the people it's meant to serve. Another example would be North Korea, where Kim Il-jung's government serves him, not the people. Or another example might be looking at the present day situation in Belarus or Russia, where we have authoritarian regimes who decide the policy for themselves and how it serves them the best, not the people, although they might try to cover it with a smokescreen of saying this is for the people. But we know in truth it's not. So the great thing about it is that your democracy, your liberal democracy, has safeguards built in to stop it being corrupted or captured by people who would use it or abuse it. And that's a very heartfelt thing to know that we live in a system which allows the individual freedoms. And as a Liberal Democrat, I'd like to remind you all that one of our centrepieces is the concept of proportional representation. Every vote must count. Every voice must be heard, and it's only through proportional representation we can have that. So please remember that. And finally, I'd like to give a big shout out to all the L's and X's who subscribed and tell them you are slaying it. And for my slightly older viewers, I'd like to say keep it real. And you're all great for watching, listening and helping me understand. This is Liberal Democrat Reg signing off. See you again next video.